Hello everybody, my name is Eric Navas. In this video, I'm going to talk about my experiences at Shepherd's Church / El Camino UBF. El Camino UBF is the real name. I talked about that in another video. But I'll say Shepherd's Church so that you won't be confused. By you, I'm referring to particularly like the new students. The name itself is problematic, but I'll explain that in a different video. So this video is going to be very lengthy. In this video, I'm going to express a lot of strong emotions. And I'll do my best to keep my composure throughout the whole video. So how did I get involved with the church in the first place, with this UBF church? It goes back to August 2013. I was not recruited by a shepherd directly. My classmate introduced me to my Bible teacher, Clifford Ty Rothrock. So as a side note, his real name is Clifford. His full name is Clifford Tylene Rothrock. Ty is his nickname. Right. So I was introduced by a former colleague. I was introduced to Rothrock by a former colleague, whom I don't talk to anymore, even after I left. And that's how I got involved in the first place. Then January 2014, that's when I first started going to Sunday service and testimony writing. And everything was going smoothly for me. And I didn't notice anything weird or off when I first started going there. The one thing that threw me off that first year I was there was when I wanted daily bread. So at the time, Sambo Webster, she was in charge of daily bread. Like if you wanted to buy a daily bread book, you would just go to her, and then I think the price was like $7 or $8, if I remember correctly. And I raised my hand, when she asked. I was like, I wanted a daily bread book, and they kind of ignored me. They didn't bother to give me a daily bread book. I was like, what the heck's going on? And I asked my teacher, and that's when he showed me the University Bible Fellowship website. And I thought, why would he show me this website? How come they don't have the daily bread at Shepherd's Church's El Camino UBF's own website? I thought that was weird. That was the one thing that threw me off that first year. And at the time, I just tried to brush it off. I don't know if Sambo's still in charge of the daily bread now. Most likely it's someone else, but at the time she was in charge of daily bread. She was definitely in charge of the daily bread of my testimony, fellowship group. I don't know if she was in charge of daily bread of throughout the whole church or just our group. But I know for sure, our group, she was in charge of it. That was 2014. And 2015, that's when a lot of things started happening. So January 2015 was the marriage of Ileana Garcia and Robert Crane. As another side note, there's three Roberts in the church. There's Robert Crane, the guy with glasses, the Caucasian guy. There's Roberto Flores, the husband of Sarah Jones. Sarah Jones is her maiden name. She took up the name Sarah Flores after she married Roberto. And then there's Robert Hagen. He's the bald one. So there's three Roberts in the church. So it was at the wedding, that's when I knew something was weird. It wasn't the wedding itself that threw me off, but it was what happened after the wedding. So I saw Mary taking photos of some of the members, and in my mind, I thought it was okay because if this member of the church is taking photos and no one said anything, so then it's totally fine. That's what I thought. I took photos, after the wedding was over, kind of like a selfie with some of the brothers. and with Sarah Beck as well. Unfortunately, I don't have the photos anymore. They're lost. They're actually in my old phone. I have a new phone. So, and Google, I didn't have I didn't have Verizon Cloud at the time, so the archive was lost. And when I met with my Bible teacher the week after, he got pissed off at me. And he was like, "We need to talk," like that kind of tone. And he was telling me how I caused all this spiritual damage in the church. Like, what? And that's when I knew something was wrong. That's when I started noticing the cracks in the mirror, as Brian Karcher mentions in his book Identity Snatchers. I'll do a review on that book later on, like what I thought about the book. But that's when I started noticing cracks in the mirror, like realizing that the structure itself, how it's arranged, didn't make any sense. It doesn't completely add up. And at the time, I tried to ignore the cracks in the mirror. So then, testimony writing changed for me as well. Because originally, when I did testimony writing, I would get criticized or, reprimanded here and there. But after the wedding incident, I would get rebuked, reprimanded, or criticized for my testimony writing every single week for a year and a half. So when I first started getting reprimanded for my testimony, like I thought, okay, maybe he's just trying to help me. But I noticed that he was doing it for practically almost a year, and I knew something was off. It was like, in my opinion, it was like he had this contempt towards me, this resentment. I guess he thought I wasn't programmed enough or cloned enough, in his opinion. So he thought I had to get reprimanded every single week for my testimony, even though I did the best that I could. Because oftentimes I would lose sleep just writing my testimony. Like, I would stay up really late just writing testimony, right? They want the testimony, they expect you to write at least 2 pages minimum, and it had to be about the message and what you thought about it. And I did all that, and I would still get reprimanded anyway. And even when I shared my testimony, no one would even clap or say amen anymore that year. This is 2015, early 2015. Another thing that happened that year was I heard other members talking about Roberto Flores and how he's losing his faith or he was acting weird or something like that. And so I texted him. Oh, in case you're wondering, how I got his number was I was chosen to be a symposium speaker, and Roberto Flores was in charge of the group that would speak, and so we all gave him our contacts, and we got his contact. So that's how I got his number. So I texted him asking, "Hey, I heard these things. Is it true? Is everything okay?" And he texted me back thanking me for his concern. I was doing it out of, heart. And then later that same night, my bio teacher yelled at me through an email telling me how I violated a spiritual order. And that's when I realized something was really off with the church. That didn't make any sense. Because it was around that time, that same year, where John Beck gave me this order, this direction to not talk to any females in the church, which was weird. And I was like, I knew something was off, but I tried to brush it off and act like it was no big deal. Well, in the back of my mind, I realized something was really off. And it was around the same year, that's when I first made my first blog post about my experience in church. Something's off about this. And that's when Brian Karcher contacted me. First, it was via comment. and he told me about his book, right? So I didn't check out his book right off the bat because I initially thought maybe maybe it was just me, but then later on I started doing my research with University Bible Fellowship and reading all these testimonies and realizing that I was not alone. Other people were experiencing the same thing. And then the whole illusion, the mask was starting to like come apart. And I realized something is really wrong. And that's when I started reading Brandon Carter's book, Identity Snatchers. And it was around late 2015. That's when my blog was discovered. I don't know who discovered it. There was rumor that it was Eric Hernandez, the husband of Bianca, who did it, who discovered my blog and told my teacher about it. But like I said, that's a rumor. I can't confirm that. But I do know that whoever found my blog and told my Bible teacher about it was a guy. Because he was like, told me, hey, can you take it down? He acted all sympathetic at the time. And so I actually didn't take it down. I actually prioritized the blog to make him think that, that I actually took it down. In reality, I just prioritized it. And that was around the first time I started secretly acting, I guess, rebellious or defiant. And by 2016, I was kind of done already. I was done with the UBF system because I realized it's all formulaic. It's all scripted. Everything was the same. Everything was getting repetitive. The messages were the same. The Bible studies were the same. Testimony writing was the same thing. And I realized this, and I was telling my Bible teacher about it, and he's like, no, it's not. He insists it's not, but in reality it was. And that's when I noticed some people would leave the church. And I thought, what happened? Why did they leave? And so I initially believed the lies that the seniors and John Beck told about the ex-members. I explained that in an earlier video, the lies they told about ex-members. I'll link in the description below in debunking that. So I believed them at the time. And my blog was still there, and I was considered taking it down when one of the ex-members, who was my friend to this day, he was one of the first people to comment, explaining, I'm sympathizing with me. And then I found out who was a real identity, and then I met up with him secretly at this pizza place. And I asked him what happened, why did you leave? And then he was like, something's wrong with the church, theology-wise and doctrine-wise. And I agree with him. And later on, I got contact with other ex-people who left and heard their story, and then we kind of made this support group. In reality, a few months before I left in 2016, I was actually secretly meeting up with them after Sunday service. Now, that was around the time I stopped going to the fellowship meetings. And also, I would read Brian Carter's Identity Snatchers right before Bible study. So I was being rebellious kind of in secret. And one biggest thing that did happen to me was, it wasn't so much like a shock, but it was more of an annoyance, was that Grace Beck's sheep, Felicia Yanagi, would try to commit adultery with me. And this was not a secret. It wasn't subtle or behind the scenes. It was obvious. Like, I could test my writing. She would just look at me with those big eyes and like this. And one time when I was in the bus, I was sitting like one side of the bus and she was sitting the other side of the bus. I didn't notice her at first, so I was just, doing my own thing. and just preparing for Bible study that day. And then she saw me, she's like, "Hey, Eric," like that. I'm not exaggerating. That did really happen. Actually, she started doing that since back in 2014 when I started going to testimony ready. And after service, sometimes she would approach me and try to talk to me, and it would throw me off. And as I was listening to her, some of the other members would give me a dirty look, as though like I was trying to get my way with her, and that's not true at all. That's false. And the conversations were not even about God or Bible study. It was about, hey, I like your shirt or something like that. And in 2016, I had enough. I was losing my patience, and I emailed John Beck about it, and he made this apology. Now, you can argue that it was genuine or it was not genuine, but I'll link in the description below what I said and what he said, but it didn't change anything. At first, she just got mad, and then she still committed adultery, tried to commit adultery with me, despite the email I sent to John Beck. It only stopped after I left. And that was my experience in the church. And as I explained on the video, why I left, the last stand for me was when I realized they were willing to betray one another in the name of Jesus, and I was not okay with that. And it was at that time where John Beck told me to stay away from his daughter, because I tried to reach out to her and other members about something's going off, something's wrong. And just for the record, my relationship between Sarah Beck and me, it was always been platonic. It's always been, I really care about this person. At one time, I considered her as a best friend, but then after I left, I realized our relationship was fake. It was superficial at best. We were just business people. So that's what John Beck told me, stay away from his daughter. He basically disowned me, even though I was part of the church for 3.5 years. And my Bible teacher was a witness when John Beck said those things to me. And then he also told me that, well, just go if you don't feel like staying here. Like, yes, those were John Beck's own words. Just leave, and no one would ever bother you. No one's gonna contact you at all. Period. Right? That's what John Beck promised me. And so I left. And I left during the night, because when I left, daylight savings ended. What's kind of ironic is that when I left, it was on Halloween, October 31st, 2016. And then I contacted Brian Karcher and other ex-members that I finally left for good. So I left physically, and I left psychologically, mentally. But when I first left, I didn't know how to control my emotion. And so I did release my emotion, but I didn't do it in a healthy way. And there was times where I took things too far. And I had unintentionally taken out other ex-members. And if you're an ex-member watching this video, I'm very sorry for any hardships. I thank you for bearing with me, even though you did not have to. And you thought, like I thought, that once I left, everything was all over. That was it. So when I first left, just for the record, I was moving on. I actually forgot about them at that time. I was just moving on with my life and whatnot. Then, in late December 2016, Elva Madrid showed up to my house and harassed my family. So it was on a Monday night. I don't remember the exact day. She came to our house like 10 p.m. to ask my sister and my cousin, because at the time my cousin and my aunt was visiting me and my family, to go to Bible study. And I got angry. Like, I was so mad. I told her I'm not interested. I'm tired of Rothrock's BS. And she's like, "Oh, okay," in a sarcastic tone. I'm not upset because she asked my sister for to go to a conference or for Bible study. I was upset because she was willing to harass my family in order to accomplish that goal. Because my sister was there for about a year before she left as well. And Elva, for a long time, had my sister's number and email. So there was no need for her to go to our house. That threw me off. And then 2 months later, I saw my Bible teacher on my college campus. I was attending Cal State Dominguez Hills, and I confronted him about this, and he got evasive. And during the conversation, he was like, literally just trying to walk away from me. I was trying to gesture him, "Hey, come back, man. Why are you walking away from the conversation?" And he was like, "I don't have to tell you anything." Yes, that's what he said to me. And he also said, "Get away from me, you freak." And in mind, I was like, "Hey, so it's come to this." That's what I was thinking in my mind. So I got disowned by John Beck. I was disowned by my own Bible teacher. And then this was in early February 2017. And that was at that time I started creating this online trail articles about the church. And then a month later, March 2nd, 2017, I was just going to my class. It was around 5:15 p.m. At that time, daylight savings was about to start. I think it started around that time. Then he, out of the blue, just threatened to call the cops on me, even though we were in a public area where there was cameras and other witnesses, student witnesses. And I was just going to class. Because I was my second to last semester, I believe. No, last semester as an undergrad there. So for him to make threats made no sense. So not only was my family harassed after I left, I was threatened by my own teacher to call the cops on me. That did happen. So if you ask him now, or ask them now, like, about these things, they'll either deny it, or if they do acknowledge it, they'll try to come up with some lousy justification and misuse the Bible to justify their point with no real basis. And later, I found out from Eduardo and from some other from some anonymous people that they plan to have some of the seniors to arrest me on the campus. My Bible teacher, Ileana, the original plan was to have me arrested, but they didn't carry it out, which was odd because it was John Beck's orders. And so I still saw them at the campus from here and there, but it was kind of rare. And that's what happened after I left. And as far as my relationship with ex-members, originally, we were getting together. It was more of like, it started off okay, and it was doing well. Then Eduardo went back, and when Eduardo left, that's when the group kind of, in my opinion, it just kind of, not to say fell apart, it just kind of like, shifted away from itself. It's like everyone started kind of doing their thing from then on. By Eduardo, I'm referring to the very same Eduardo who got married to Jackie Godoy. I have my thoughts about him, him and his marriage. His story is actually very tragic and complex, but I'll get to that. I might talk about that in another video, I might not. But yes, so that's what happened while I was there, and what happened after I left. It was after my family was harassed, and after my former biology teacher threatened to call cops on me. That's when I decided to make all these articles about Camino UBF, and and the rest of it was kind of history. Originally, I made it on UB Friends, the old UB Friends website. I'll put a link in the description where you can see the whole archives. Just type in Shepherd's Church or type in El Camino UBF and you'll see it. And that was the time where I discovered a lot of stuff that was buried by UBF. Like Canada UBF newspaper articles. I also got in contact with a guy who was originally part of Downey, and he told me the secret history of John Beck and how he really created El Camino UBF, Shepherd's Church, which I explained in the last video. And I still talk to those ex-members to this day. I still talk to Brent Karcher to this day. As far as the ex-members, I still talk to some of them before, and even when I do talk to them, it was more on occasion, with one exception. With Brent Karcher and another friend, Alex, who I talk to like practically every day. And she reminded me how that I do belong somewhere, that God created me in His image likeness for His purpose. And realize, there are people that do care about me. That the world is not all black. And I'm really thankful for all the ex-members for their help, for all the support I got from families and friends. And I don't say that very often enough, but I really do appreciate what they all done for you, even though I might not show it all the time. I really do, because there was times where, I was depressed, I was really in a dark place, and I needed more than just a Bible study. I needed someone to connect to. Like that, how that scene from Inside Out where Bing Bong is like really sad and happy, tried to cheer him up, but nothing happened. But it's only when sadness approached Bing Bong that he was able to kind of open up. I was kind of like Bing Bong in that moment. I need that sadness to really to get over, to pull myself together, because I realized, seeing that movie, and after leaving, that I'm a human being, that I have emotions, a conscious logic for a reason, for God's purpose, and also discern what's right or wrong, what's the lesser of two evils, why this is gray area, etc. And as human beings, we should express our emotions in a healthy way. And we should express all of our emotions, whenever the situation seems fit. Whether you're happy, you're sad, you're upset, disgusted, or fear. It's okay to have different emotions. What's not okay, where it's not healthy, is to focus or hold on to one emotion the whole entire time. Then you create this form of toxicity within yourself. That was kind of my eye opener there. And now I've become a lot more calmer. I've learned how to control my anger. I've come to acknowledge my fears, my sadness. I've come to really find a place or several places to really, just to pause, stop, and really meditate on life, on what I'm doing, and really, really not just building up my personality, but also enjoying my personality, enjoying God's vocation for me. Seeing how God has made us all individual, unique people. To serve God, you don't need to be a clone. You can be a unique personality and still have the same one mind and heart. And as you can see, back here, this is my bookshelf. And bookshelf is one of my favorite pastimes before I joined UBF, and I've come to return to that. I'd like to thank everybody again. I can't thank you guys enough. It's like probably the third time I'm thanking you all for support, love, encouragement, and also for helping me to steer away from the dark side, so to speak. So that's my experience while I was there and after I left. So if you're a new person watching this video, take everything that the current members in the church say with a grain of salt. To remain an open-minded person, always hear both sides of the story. Look at both sides of the coin. It's okay to ask questions. It's okay to think outside the box. That's not a sin. If you have experienced or feel anything similar to what I've mentioned in this video, you're not alone. I too have experienced those things. But now I'm making this video and all the content online about El Camino UBF Shepherd's Church. Once my hope was that the church would at least acknowledge that they have wronged people in the past, and that new people would see that they're not alone in the struggle, and they would know what is to come, what's really in store for them if they were to go through what I've been through. No human being should go through that. No person should be deceived, should have to go through such psychological and spiritual abuse. To the church, to the UBF team, knowing you guys, you're going to probably take this video down. Maybe not right away, but in the future. Why? Why are you really doing that? By taking down my content, which they have done in the past, and taking down reviews of ex-members. I'll link in the description evidence for that. By doing that, you're silencing survivors of abuse. And your argument, an insider's argument, is that you're trying to protect sheep. You're concerned about their well-being. You don't want them to falter. But do you have to really silence someone else's voice, violate someone else's rights in order for your sheep to be protected? Is that really okay? I'm no Bible scholar, but I'm pretty sure Jesus would not do something like that. He would never silence anybody. Ex-members have never silenced UBF. They've spoken their voice. At most, they made TV reports, but that's just about it. They have never silenced your voice. They've never taken out your content. So why do that to us? Something to think about. This is Eric Navas, and I am signing off now. Until next time.